I don't wanna be just someone that's new. I speak my mind so free, so you could hear the truth. Yeah, I know that we all have fear.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Truth for Youth podcast. I hope 2021 is going great for you so far. I know we're early on, but you know what? It's a new year, right? New year, new me. Isn't that the saying? Although I'm not so sure about the whole new me. How about a better me? I'm all up for that. I'm always trying to improve myself and improve in all aspects of my life, whether that be work, whether that be as a father, as a husband, physically, spiritually, of course. So yeah, I'm game, man. I'm excited about New Year's. I usually am excited about New Year's. So it's going good for me. Hopefully it's going good for you. And again, I'm excited about this podcast and seeing what it does in this year of 2021. So let's get to it. All right. If you saw the title, you're probably wondering, what in the world is 20,440 and why is that a significant number? Glad you asked, because that is today's topic. Now look, if you look on the internet, and we all know we can trust everything that we read on the internet. Right, yeah. Anyways, there is a statistic, or at least there's been some studies that have shown that the average human worldwide has a life expectancy of 72 years of age, which is actually higher than I thought. I really thought if you take into consideration everything with, from baby births to children and on up, I really thought it'd be kind of younger, but that's what stats show. 72 years of age is your average life expectancy. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, if you were to multiply that by 365, the days in a year, you'd come up with, not 20,440. If you do that, you actually come up with 26,280 days. So that would be how many days the average person lives here on earth. So where did that other number come from? Well, if you subtracted 16 years out of that 72, that's where you get that number. Because you're going to get about 6,000 days in your 16 years of life. Now, why 16? Well, I was thinking most people listening to this podcast, teenagers, are either close to 16 or 16 years of age. Some obviously older. But you could pretty much say that you've at least spent 16 years, again, give or take, on this earth, which means you've already spent about 6,000 days here on earth of your 26,280. Now, again, that is an average. We all know, right? We cannot predict the future. We don't know how long we're going to live here on this earth. Some people obviously die at a very young age. Some people live to be maybe 100 or even older. So we really don't know. Again, this is just based on that average. So I'm just playing with the numbers here. So why do this? Well, I realize you young people listening, you teenagers, that seems like a very large number. You're probably like, heck yeah, man, 26,000 or at least 20,000 days. Man, that is forever. Like that's a lot of days, especially when you start thinking about how long it seems like it takes you to get through a year. Maybe you're so tired of the grade that you're in, or you're so ready to get through middle school or get through high school. You're thinking, oh man, that's 365 days just to get through that year. 20,000, man, that's an eternity. I get it. I was the same way. Honestly, the majority of my life, a number would probably never really done anything for me, because I was always that young going to live forever. Life seems like it's kind of going slow and taking forever. It's taking its sweet little time. But I look back now and I think, geez, did time go by fast? And I know that's what every old, quote, old person says, right? That time flies and it always gets faster and faster. But look, I was even talking to some college students recently. One of my college students is graduating, and they were talking about how fast college went. Like it flew by. And yeah, that was a quick 4 years. And it's like, man, in the blink of an eye, time just goes by, and it just gets quicker and quicker as we just are busy, right? It's just when you're busy, life goes by quick. So I say all that to come back to this number, right? The 20,440. Now, again, that's like if you're 16, 17 years old, okay? What about you that are 21 years of age? Well, you're down to like 18,615 days. That number has gotten significantly smaller just in those few years. So you see those days can be eaten up pretty quick. And obviously for me and other adults that are listening or parents that are listening to this podcast, if you've calculated the numbers, you may be a little depressed because that number is a huge chunk taken out. And it starts kind of weighing on you a little bit, thinking, gosh, my days are numbered, right? My days are getting smaller. And again, you young people, I know that's not really on your mind. Now, some of you maybe have lost some loved ones recently, perhaps parents or grandparents, or maybe even siblings or cousins or best friends. So perhaps maybe you think of life a little differently. Maybe you treasure it a little bit more. But the average, you're blowing and going, you're not really thinking about it. But as you get older, you do start thinking about it, because I start thinking about it now like, man, my time is very precious. Honestly, think about how valuable time really is. A lot of times we like to put value on items, possessions, money, and we think that's the most valuable thing that I have, or that's the most precious thing that I have, this bank that I've been saving and I have all this money in it, or this car that I bought or whatever. But if you think about all that, all those possessions that you've probably worked really hard for, perhaps been blessed with, whatever the case, that can be replaced. You can always go make more money. You can always go buy new items. Maybe not can get the exact same item, but you can go get more of something. Time, that's it. You don't get to go buy more. You don't get to just hit the restart button or the reset. There's no do-over. You don't get to try again. You have the one life. You have these days, and that's it. That's it. Life is short. Life is precious. We don't get our day back. When this day is over, it becomes history. You can't go back and change what you did. And for me, a lot of times I'll think back at the day and it's like, well, did I accomplish something? Was it good? Did I waste a lot of the time? I think back to some of those days where I just maybe vegged out on a video game, and I'm thinking, gosh, like literally it may have been like an all-day Saturday something when I was younger. And I was like, well, there goes that whole day. I just spent that whole day, playing a video game. And that's burnt, right? It's gone. It's done. There's no getting that day back. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, that was a wasted day probably. But, it happens. And I'm sure there's some teenagers out there that can relate to that, right? A day spent on video games, and there it went. All right, so I got a passage for us. Colossians chapter 4, verses 5. Again, this is kind of piggybacking on last week's topic and lesson. So I hope you listened to last week. If you have not, it's a really good lesson. Go back and listen to it. It's kind of that mentality of how to make the most of this year. And I'll actually read that passage that I talked about last week, but before that, let me hit this passage. So it's Colossians 4:5. This is what it says. Use your time in the best way you can. Use your time in the best way you can. So the Bible, God is even saying, look, time is valuable. Use it wisely. That was the easy to read translation. And then I want to go to another passage. This is in the book of Acts, chapter 20, verses 24. But life is worth nothing unless I use it for doing the work assigned me by the Lord Jesus, the work of telling others the good news about God's mighty kindness and love. Again, I'm going to read that one again. That comes from the Living Bible translation. But life is worth nothing unless I use it for doing the work assigned to me by the Lord Jesus. And that work is telling others the good news about God's mighty kindness and his love. And here's the easy to read version. It says, I don't care about my own life. The most important thing is that I finish my work. I want to finish the work that the Lord Jesus gave me to do. That is to tell people the good news about God's grace. So if we look at those two passages, the one talking about making the most use of your time, and then talking about life, right? Your life, and you don't care about your life, or it's worth nothing unless you're doing what God has called you to do. You're telling others about Christ. You're telling others about God's love and his mercy and his grace and his loving kindness. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? Now, I'm going to pick back up and I'm going to read you the passage from last week because they go together beautifully. And that was in Colossians chapter 1, verses 9 through 12. And remember, I said this should be my theme, and it's going to be my theme. It is my theme, I guess, and it's my prayer. I've been praying it daily since last week because I think it's just a great prayer. It's a great mentality to have on a daily basis. So here it is. This was Paul and Timothy writing to the Christians in Colossae, and he says this, so ever since we first heard about you, those Christians, we have kept on praying and asking God to help you understand what he wants you to do, asking him to make you wise about spiritual things, and asking that the way you live will always please the Lord and honor him, so that you will always be doing good and kind things for others while all the time you are learning to know God better and better. Again, what a great prayer. You know, God, please help me to understand your will for my life. Help me to understand what you want me to do. God, make me wise. Make me wise about spiritual things. And God, help me to live a life that is honoring to you, that is pleasing to you. You know, things that I'm doing good. I'm doing kind things for others. And he goes on to even ask for strength. God, help me to endure, right? That is a great prayer to have. So that goes great with our passage today about what are you doing with your time? Your time is valuable. Your days are limited. Are those days consisting of this prayer? Are you living a life that's pleasing to God? Are you being kind to others? Are you serving others? Are you loving others? Are you learning more about God? I mean, that's what the prayer was. And again, go back up to Acts where he says, you know, my life is worth nothing if I'm not accomplishing God's will, if I'm not doing the job that I was given. Now, yes, this was talking about a specific person. But for us as Christians, if you're a follower of Christ, our purpose in life is twofold: to know God, to make God known, right? Now, we do that in all various ways, okay? Because God's blessed us all with different talents and abilities and opportunities, where you live and skills that He's maybe blessed you with. So we do that in different ways. But that is the big goal. That's the big purpose of our life here, because our life is very temporary. Our life it's like the warm-up to the game, right? The big game, the eternity that goes on forever. This is that preparation period. This is that warm-up period. And this is where we're trying to tell others about God, and we're learning about God, and we're learning about His love, and we're trying to live a life pleasing the Lord. That's the main fold. That's the main purpose. And like I said, I've been trying to pray that daily, because that's what I want my days to do. That's what I want my days to consist of. I hope that I'm living a life that is pleasing to the Lord. And I know I mess up. I know I sin. And you do too. And you will in the future. But that's not an excuse to say, oh, well, I might as well just, scrap it and keep sinning. No, it's get back up and keep trying. Keep pursuing it. It reminds me even of a quote that I have I put it on my my bathroom mirror, because I wanted it to be able to see it daily. My mindset is, when I'm either brushing my teeth or maybe putting my contacts in or taking my contacts out at night, that I would look at this quote and be reminded of just really time and the days and how precious they are. And again, it goes perfect with today's message. And it's a quote. I'm not even sure exactly who the individual is, Heartsill Wilson. I don't remember if he was a coach or what, but the quote is great. And this is what it says. This is the beginning of a new day. God has given me this day to use as I will. I can waste it, or I can use it for good. What I do today is very important, because I'm exchanging a day of my life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever, leaving something in its place that I have traded for it. And I want it to be a gain, not a loss. Good, not evil. Success, not failure. In order that I shall not regret the price I paid for it. Guys, this one really hits me. Like, I love this quote. I love it. I mean, that's why it's on my mirror, because it helps me keep in check the day. When I read it in the morning, I'm reminded, hey, today's an opportunity, right? I can use it for good. I can use it for evil. I can do whatever I want. God's given me the will, my own will, to choose. But I'm also realizing God's blessed me with a new day. It goes back to when we were talking about being thankful and being thankful for life. So in the morning, if I'm reminded, God, thank you for the life. Thank you. I have a new day. I may not finish the day, but that I woke up and God has given me a day to at least start. It's the beginning of a new day. Like this quote says, it's the beginning of a new day that God has given me. I can waste it. And there's plenty of days that I will have wasted, right? And still, I feel like at times I'll look back on my day and I'll be like, gosh, did I waste that day? Like, I felt like I chased my tail around the whole time, like either things I just couldn't get figured out or accomplished or stuck on, and I just kind of wonder if it was a waste. But today is very important, because I'm exchanging a day of my life for it. Think about it. You're exchanging one of those 20,440 days. All right, you're taking one of those every day. You're pulling it off the shelf, and you're exchanging it for something. And I know a lot of us have things that we have to do. You're a student, or most of you are students. You're called to be a student. That means going to class or going to school. Right now, maybe you're doing it on Zoom, or you're studying. Others may be going to your job. So part of these things you kind of have to do or you're supposed to do, right? But there's plenty of other things throughout the day and even how you attack that day and what was your mentality of that day and the opportunities that were presented. Perhaps it was with a friend, a classmate, a teammate, a coworker. What opportunities did you seize in that day? Because it says you're exchanging a day of your life for it. And then when tomorrow comes, right, because now the day's in the past, the day's gone forever, leaving something in its place, right? You've exchanged something for it. Was it a gain or was it loss? Was it good or was it evil? Was it success or was it failure? And now the success and failure thing, this is my take on success and failure. I may have a lot of things that I don't, quote unquote, succeed in life, but I don't necessarily look at them at failures. Failures are what I look at when I didn't give it my all, when I didn't try something. A lot of things I try and they don't work out. They just don't. But you know what? I tried. So in my eyes, that wasn't a failure because I learned something. I learned maybe how not to do something. For me, the failure is when I've quit something or I've totally abandoned something that I should have stayed the course on or totally gave up, to some regards or didn't try. That is the failure. Because you want to look back on the day without regrets. Do you look on your yesterday and have regrets the way you lived? Because there was a price paid for it. You paid a price. You paid one of those days. That bank account is limited. It's as if someone put $100 in your bank account and says, this is all you got to work with. Okay. You can't add any more money to it. It's a withdrawal only. No deposits can be made in this account. And every day you have to take out a little bit. What are you doing with that? Hopefully you're spending that money wisely. That's what your life is. That's what your days are. I just want you to really grasp how precious your time is, how precious your days are. You'll realize it when you get older, but if you can realize it now when you're young and really take advantage of it and make the most of your days, you know how much more thankful you will be that you won't look back and say, man, I blew 20 years of my life, doing nothing, wasted. Man, I hope you can look back and say, wow, I only wasted a few. I really tried to make the most of my days. I really tried to live, in a way that pleased God or that was honoring to Him, or trying to grow in my relationship and, be good and kind to people and be a witness for Him. What are you exchanging your day for? Those days are numbered. And again, we don't know. I hope you get those 20,000 days, at least those 20,000 days. But you're not promised those. I'm not promised those. So let's make the most of our time, all right? And what better way to start a year than to focus on our time? How are we spending it? Are we making the most of it? And again, going back to that prayer, hopefully we're living a life that is pleasing and honoring to our Lord. Guys, I'm praying for you. I'm praying that this is a great year for you. I'm praying growth. I'm praying you make the most of it. And I appreciate the same, man. Pray for me. Yes, I'm a youth pastor, but hey, I need prayer. I could use prayer, so I appreciate your prayers. And also, I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. It really means a lot to me. I don't do this just for the heck of it. I do this so I can try to bring value to at least someone out there. So I hope you're getting value. And if you do, please share it. If you don't get value, I don't expect you to share. But if you get value, please share it with someone. Make a comment, a post, recommend it to somebody. If you have not left a review on iTunes, that would mean a ton. And this will really help the podcast to grow and reach more people. Guys, love you. Thank you. And we'll catch you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
I don't wanna be just someone that's new. I speak my mind so free, so you could hear the truth. Yeah, I know that we all have